Hello, neurohackers. I am so glad that you neurohacking parents are back for more. And this is one of my absolute favorites. Normally, I say I like to neuro geek out with you, but today we're going to be talking about toxins and detoxing from those toxins. And most of the comments that I get are that parents want to do this course with their children. So, for the first time, I'm going to give you the opposite advice. Normally, when we're talking about the brain, I always say just beware that you're not going to learn as quickly as your children. However, when we start talking about the toxins and detoxing, uh, most likely you are going to be experiencing greater change than your children, and that is really hopefully. Um, I also wanted you to know that we are going to do this gently. Anyone who knows me knows what a naturopath I am. Not that I'm a doctor, but I do everything with the system holistically. That's why the education in this course is completely holistic. So it won't be that you'll be going through jitters or anything like that. We are completely working through the system, and it'll be really gentle. Your children won't even notice the difference. Or hopefully not. It depends how addicted they are to sugar. So that's probably my disclaimer for today. Okay, why are we doing this? At the beginning of the 60-day challenge, I said that we're doing this because we're trying to create a pure platform for our brain to start building on. And the easiest way for the brain to absorb like a sponge is to have no toxins. Unfortunately, in this day and age, that's almost impossible, but we can at least lighten the load for our three brains. And we spoke about the brain being the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. Okay, we know that the toxins, just to jump into really basics, what are toxins? We know the side effects of the toxins can interfere with our cellular function, hormonal balance, and even our immune responses. So any form of inflammation is basically formed from some kind of toxin and or a bacteria and a virus. So we want to get rid of any interference so that our brain can work perfectly. I love to bring everything like grounded in anecdotal stories. And so, as you know, I homeschool all three of my children, and my oldest, we actually got to brag that in his first 5 years, he never once got sick. And I relate a lot of that to our environment. And this is what I'm going to be sharing with you. Again, in our online course, we do a whole day based on detoxing and specifically neurotoxins. But, we're going to just at least highlight some areas that you can start looking into. And there's also the Facebook group if you want to ask questions in there, and then obviously the individual coaching. So feel free to do all that at buildyourbrain.org. So let's talk about the harmful toxins and where they are found. So really, for me, the three main areas where they're found is obviously externally in your environmental sources. We've got it in our foods, in our dietary sources, and then unfortunately in our households. And so that is going to be really important to start analyzing. Okay, well, let's start off with the environmental. So unfortunately, again, the way we grew up was very different to the way our children are growing up. Their systems are constantly being bombarded with, the air pollution, the water pollution, the noise pollution. We've got in the air, we've got our pesticides, we've got glyphosates. There's a farming area up here where they are constantly spraying, and people always have allergies and sicknesses. So those also have to be taken into account. There's the heavy metals, especially lead and mercury. Those are not only external. Lead, if you're anything like me and you love bling, you've got to realize that anything crystal glasses, crystal cups, what have you, plates, all have lead in them. So that is an absolute no-no, and that kind of feeds into the household sources that you do need to start extrapolating from your house. Okay, then when we look at dietary sources, I feel bad to do this in 30 seconds because you could spend an eternity on this. I do go through, when you start reading your food labels, there are so many words that sound fine, but really when you go into the detail, I mean, something really as simple as vitamin C, if you know that absorbic acid is grown from mold, that should put you off straight away. And just eat the, if you can't eat an orange, then at least go do the powdered extract. Moringa is a fantastic one from Africa with a high vitamin C content. And so there are things like that that you can start doing in your dietary source. Obviously, like the, you know, not, I won't say the pivotal, the grounding thing is, and the children know this when they come to my school, no sugar, no processed foods, no additives, no dyes, the blue, the red, the dyes, nothing like that. And water. Water is very important. Okay, obviously we know about the contaminated water, but then we have issues where parents are using reverse osmosis and the children have lots of cavities. Reverse osmosis water is dead water. So there are no minerals in there. So if you are doing reverse osmosis, you could put in a pinch of Himalayan salt or Baja Gold salt to give you the minerals. But ideally, if you're going to, we used to do reverse osmosis, and then we would filter that water through, believe it or not, different types of rocks and gems and minerals, because that would give the right frequency. So I have to rein myself back from going down rabbit holes. But those are the dietary sources that you have to start analyzing now in your environment. A lot of your children obviously are at school all day, and you can just look up like Dr. Mercola and read about the water fountains and the water that's coming through those water fountains, despite all the bacteria and viruses that they're picking up from the other children. So ideally, we would love you to send your child to school. How I do it is I've actually got not only a built-in water filtration system, but it's got the gems to give that frequency to the cleared water. So there are a lot of options that you have, and ideally no plastic. Yes, I actually am a fan of copper, because if you go into our soils and you look at the analysis of the soils, copper has been completely depleted out of that. So at home we drink from copper mugs, but you can even get those as containers for your kids to take to school. So and then again, like silver plated, because not all of us drink nano silver every day. So that's another way of being able to supplement your child with the metals that are good for you, as opposed to lead and mercury. Okay. And then the third thing is the household sources. I went through a stage where, and I mean, like I said, 20 years ago, you couldn't find anything that was non-chemical. So I was making my cleaning agents out of lemon juice, vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and, baking soda. However, these days, there are so many products out there. I do have to have a special shout out to Yuka, YUKA, the app. It's fantastic. You can scan over there and feel free to donate to them, and they will tell you how good or bad a product is. So when you're shopping, that should be your go-to. In the old days, like I say, with the dietary resources, I used to have to remember, like, okay, no, cornstarch is bad, and absorbic acid is bad, and maltodextrin is terrible, and dextrose is. Whereas now you do have these apps that you can start using. So that should all help you in terms of what not to bring into your household and what to get rid of from your household. But let's start now that we've dealt with toxins and where they're found, as to why we're trying to do this and how actually the toxins affect the brain growth. So toxins and brain growth are obviously juxtaposed to one another. And there's a lot of research that has come out regarding the brain architecture. I'm sorry, I keep reiterating the bad guys, but they're the most extreme, which are the lead and mercury, and how they actually, when observed through brain scans, you see how the neural connections cannot form with one another. And that in turn, obviously, if you don't have a neural pathway, it leads to the cognitive defects, hopefully just deficits. It depends how badly the child is inundated with the metals. And then obviously that leads us to all the developmental delays. So in the previous videos, you see me talk about the developmental milestones, and those are really important. We're harnessing them for positive, explosive, exponential growth rate. But at the same time, when those milestones come about and we are sitting with these cognitive deficits, inflammation, and toxicities, it obviously works to the detriment of the child. Now, there's been more and more episodes, if you follow any kind of pediatric journals, that there's the higher rates of ADHD, ADD, all the labels, autism, learning disabilities, and all of this really boils down to the nuts and bolts, which is there are too many toxins for the brain to be functioning normally. And so these neurological developmental disorders all stem from the toxins. And I'm sorry, I realize this is getting to be quite a heavy subject, but the good news is we've got 2 more to go, and then we're going to dive into how we become superhuman again and get rid of all these toxins. So the third thing is hormonal disruption. And I have to give a shout out to our private Facebook group, because someone is going through menopause, and I posted an exercise on there, and she said, I never used to be like this, but that exercise totally shows that I'm not using my right brain. So it was actually a change between her character and her neurological functioning. So yes, hormones, unfortunately, can be disrupted. And there are a lot of toxins that are either hormone mimickers or hormone blockers. They have been showing that the testosterone levels in the men are going down year by year. And a lot of that has to do with the plastics. We are just inundated with, and the worst offender of that is drinking hot liquid out of plastic cups. So be like me and take your cup, your ceramic cup with you to wherever you go. Okay, so those hormone disruptors then affect the endocrine system and ultimately brain development. So I know it sounds cute to say, oh, we're going to go and take my child for a hot chocolate to Starbucks. Well, just beware of where their money goes. And that's why we never go to Starbucks. But also, if you're going to go, say, to Pete's Coffee, make sure that you've got your own mug there with you. And finally, toxins form an antioxidant. We want them to become antioxidants. We're going to eradicate toxins to form antioxidants, but toxins form an oxidative stress. And so we are trying to, in this system, in this course, give your child the best opportunity for anti-inflammatories, for decreasing oxidative stress, and for anything that is going to damage the brain cells to be eradicated. Sorry, that was a very long sentence. But I think now you have a feeling for what toxins are and how they affect the brain development and how we are going to get rid of them. So in the next session, it's going to be way more fun and upbeat. We're going to talk about how to detox, and we're going to deal with the common factors for all 3 brains: the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. And then after that, we will start dealing with the neurotoxins, the gut toxins, and believe it or not, heart toxins. Okay, I hope you have a great day, and it hasn't been too much information overload. In the meantime, still be doing your 7 minutes a day with your children. And homework will probably be just to clean out your closets and make sure that you don't have anything that's going to affect their beautiful brains. Have a wonderful day. Bye.